Seasoned Chef Troy Vincent here. I'm gonna make a pot of clam chowder, and I always have friends asking me, how do I make my clam chowder? And I'm gonna go over some things with you. I'm trying to keep the label. I didn't mean to show the label there because I'm not sponsored by any of these. But here we have heavy cream, half and half, and a half quarter, half and half, or a pint, and then a full quarter of half and half. And I have 4 cans of clams. You can add more clams. There's no rule against how much clams you add. An onion, about 4 medium to small potatoes, flour, salt and pepper, and this, I'll try to cover this stuff called clam base. Now you may not be able to, like I said, they're not my sponsor, so you may be able to go to your GFS food market, and if they don't have clam base, one of the companies that makes it's called Miners. You can ask them if they could get you some. It's possible they can, because it's a food service item. Without further ado, let me get started here.
Okay, I forgot to mention that I had a small to medium onion. I diced it up, about 2/3 cup of flour. Like I said, salt and pepper, which is probably about a teaspoon, and maybe a little over a teaspoon of salt, and about half a teaspoon of black pepper, and a whole stick of butter also. So that's where I'm going to start out, and I'm going to set the camera up now and over the pot and get that started.
I'm going to start off with the temperature at about a medium. Get my stick of butter in here. Nice stock pot here. Stock pot. You may not want to make as big of a batch of this. You can cut it down, or you could make a bigger one and like increase the size of everything. But I would still keep it basically about the same. But with anything like soup, you know, things can be a little. You can change things up a little. You know, it's not like a cake where if you don't add exactly enough leavening like baking soda, baking powder, and salt, that you're not going to end up with a flat cake. Soup's not like that. Soup, you can pretty much kind of change things in soup, and it won't affect too much. It depends on what you're doing too. I mean, I wouldn't like make a soup that's supposed to be spicy and cut the spices right out of it unless you don't like it spicy and you like it without it. You would change the recipe, and thus it wouldn't really be a spicy soup. So it just depends on what you're making. And let me get my wooden utensil here. Now I'll take these and I'll sweat them till they're all the onions, and I diced them to, you know, kind of a small dice. I don't like them really big pieces of onion. If I was making chili or something like that, I would probably leave them a little bigger. What I'll do is go ahead and I can add at least part of the salt and pepper right now. I'm gonna give it all. Helps just to sink that salt and pepper flavor. I like salt and pepper. You have to take it easy on salt if you have high blood pressure, especially. And plus, you get a little bit of salt out of the clam base that I showed you. So you have to be careful not to over salt. That's one ingredient you don't want to. If you're adding some kind of a base or a bouillon type thing, you know, you're already going to be, you know, adding salt, and then this stuff has salt in it, so you're not going to want to add too much. And I would have been making a bigger pot of this, but this is the first video I've made for the Seasoned Chef since my wife passed away, and I'm going to be the only one eating this, unfortunately. My wife and I were almost married 20 years, and she passed away in August of 2020, and April the 7th of 2021 would have been our 20th anniversary. But we were together before we got married, so we were together over 20 years. And I can kick the heat down just a little bit. It seems a bit. I like to cook a little bit of the moisture out of the onion. Some people like to brown their onions. I mean, that depends on you. I mean, and this is New England clam chowder. And one thing I also didn't mention is once I add the flour, make a roux sort of in here, and then I start adding the cream, which will thin it back out. If it's not thin enough, I also can add a little bit of milk, which I usually do anyway, so to give it the right consistency. So you can always add milk as well. Some people don't even use the half and half or the heavy cream, which I don't even use the full pint of heavy cream. I use about half of it. So maybe at least a quart of half and half, maybe a little extra, and it just depends. We'll see. The consistency is what I'm going to be looking at. And then and of course, the more creamy stuff you're adding, you're also going to be making your soup more, it's really more unhealthy in a way, but you know, it depends on whose aspect you're looking at. Keto diets are saying fat's good, you know, other diets say it's bad. I don't know, you that's for you to decide. There's a couple of pieces of onion that somehow I missed here. That won't hurt nothing. So I also don't like burnt butter. I don't know if any of you have burned your butter. It just doesn't kind of. There's very few things that you can use burnt butter and that actually taste good. I think there was a recipe I had one time that called for brown butter. I don't remember what it was now. It's been a while. And I'll go ahead and start. I'll see how it looks. I'm not going to just dump all of the flour in at once. I'm going to kind of stir it in and see. You know, I could even add a little bit more of that, but I don't want to make this is like a thickener for the whole pot of soup as well. And heavy cream is going to kind of make it a little thicker. And thing is, I don't want to make a whole lot because, as I said, I'm by myself now here. So, and then one thing I do, which some people do, some people wait. I'll go ahead and add the clam base in because it melts. This kind of clam base, it'll melt, and it'll melt better in this butter mixture with the flour here. So I go ahead and add it. And I'll add about a big tablespoon of it. Another thing is, if you can't find that, some people will add clam juice. You can add clam juice and up your salt just a tiny bit. I've seen people add chicken bouillon or bouillon cubes or even some chicken stock. But all those are like lower in salt, so you might still have to salt a little bit, but make sure you always check before you add any more. If something you added is salty, check it. Don't just add more without checking it first, because salt is one of those things you can put it in, you can't check it out. You can thin it out by making more soup. Sorry, my dogs are in here playing, so you'll probably hear them. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more flour. Which I had about 2/3 of a cup in that bowl, so probably closer to 3/4 of a cup now, I think, or thereabout for this. And yeah, that's kind of what I want to see, a pasty kind of a. And it's the darndest thing. I had my refrigerator out there turned down, and it's for summer, you know, up in temperature, technically up, because it, you know, I got a refrigerator in my garage as well as in my household. I keep it turned up higher in the winter because things start freezing, and I had turned it down and my half and half started to freeze. But that's okay. I'd rather have it a little frozen than going bad, but It still didn't, it was in there that long, so I was like, wow. So then, now this is already starting to smell like clam chowder because I had the clam base that I added to it. Some people will add a little water to theirs as well. And I'll get this broke down a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and add the, see, but I don't, that's why I don't add water, because I add the clam juice off the clams. Like I said, if you can actually buy bottles of clam juice if you can't find the Miner's base, but you want that, you want a lot of that clam flavor. That's what makes New England clam chowder so good. All right, it's trying to thicken up on me now. It'll get like a gravy consistency, and it doesn't bother me that it does that. If it starts to get lumpy, one of the things, and I don't see people talk about this much, but you take your wire whisk and you can take any lumps. Of course, right now the only lumps I really have are the onions, so bits of onions. But this will break down anytime you have a gravy or anything. If it lumped up, just get your wire whisk out. Break it down. It won't last. Those lumps will break up right up. See, it's getting a really gravy consistency now. I'll go ahead and add the half a pint of heavy cream here. And it's about half right there. Okay. Now, we'll see how thick it is now. And then I want to add my potatoes. I will not add the clams in until later because I want my potatoes to cook first. You want the potatoes to get done. And one thing with the potatoes, and I'll tell you this, a lot of people cut them up like really big or really small, and I don't do either. I kind of go in between, because if you make them too small and you overcook the soup, your potatoes are going to break down like a potato soup, cream of potato. So you're going to have a hybrid clam chowder cream of potato soup, and that's not what I'm trying to make. So I don't know if you can see my dogs, and they're not. I got one over there. She just knocked my pillow out of my chair. She tries to climb up in my chair all the time. All right. Yeah, it's like almost like a gravy consistency again. Now I may come back. I may actually add some milk, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some milk to it. Add about a cup and a half to 2 cups of milk. Like I said, I'm not making a whole lot because it's just me. This will be actually more than enough, and I'll give my neighbors some of it. And this stuff really, once you get everything incorporated, you just let it cook long enough for the potatoes to start to soften. And don't keep cooking it after that, because like I said, your potatoes, especially if you cut your potatoes up really small, your potatoes will break down and you'll have like this really thick cream of potato / clam chowder. But who knows, that might be a good thing. You never know. I've never done it, so I don't want to. But I don't want to start trying when I'm actually ready for some clam chowder. So. Put this in a minute. Go back to my spoon. Yeah, because it's plenty. There's no lumps anywhere in here of flour or anything. There may be some flour sticking to the bottom of the pan that the wire whisk didn't grab up. And I'll get those off with this. And I can hit it again if I need to with the wire whisk, especially in the corners. Wire whisks do not get corners well. Oop. Little splash there, sorry. Slow down. There. Yeah, it looks like there was a little flour in the corners on it. That is. I always say corners, but technically a pan is round. There's only really one corner, isn't there? Just in a circle. Alright, yeah, it's starting to thicken up again. What I want. Exactly what I want. That's it for just a second here. And this does not take long to make. That's one thing I like about clam chowder. Is it's a quick, really quick. I mean, it took me not even 5 minutes to chop up the potatoes and the onions. As a matter of fact, I'm about to add the potatoes in. And then really there's nothing left to do. Add a little bit more of the salt and pepper. Some people like to add other things, you know, like garlic powder, onion powder. I don't do all that. I don't need all of that. It really takes away from the soup. Because really what you're looking for is the clam, the potato, the cream, the butter, you know. That's what gives it its flavor, I think. And just a little salt and pepper to give it the right salt content, you know. And the clam flavor, of course, from the clam base as well. So, and again, like I said, you can use clam juice if you can't find the clam base in your local GFS store, or if you know someone who has an account with a restaurant depot type store, or restaurant delivery store, then you can get that Miner's clam base from most of them. So what, gotta get a little closer here. Let's see what it looks like. I think it's getting up there. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and add, before I add the potatoes, and this is the half and half that almost froze. I hope it's not frozen. When it was taller, it was closer to the top of the refrigerator, so it might be. Yeah, it has ice in it. That's not good. That's really not good. What a surprise. I may have to add some milk to this to get it out of there. Interesting. I've never had that happen like that. I've kept half and half in that refrigerator but again, it's winter outside, so, and I did turn it down though, so that's the weird thing. Yeah, it's about the right consistency now. I like to get the rest of that half and half in there though, not the heavy cream. Let's see here. I will pour a little bit of, I can't believe it did that. Another time, I was just planning on making this video and I never thought my half and half would freeze up in the refrigerator. Let's see. You're probably seeing my dogs play. Yeah, you are. Terrible. I've never seen it do that before. And what I'll do is I'll just keep the rest, and I kind of sort of replace some of it with some more milk, so I've never seen it do that so bad. It's like frozen over to the bottom. And it's funny because neither one of the little ones froze. And I had another jug of milk in there and it didn't freeze, so I don't know why that one thing froze. Weird. Well, anyway, you can see it's looking really nice right now. About to, almost to the perfect consistency too. I'm gonna go ahead and add the potatoes. Get them all out of there. All right. Now I'll get my lid, which is another thing I forgot to do before I got in here, because I gotta get in the back of my cabinet to get my lid out. I don't use it a lot, but it should be right here. Wrong one. So here it is. Here's the one that fits it. It's not really right. Okay. Now we'll come back in a little while and we'll add the clams in. Actually, you know what? You can, unlike shrimp. Well, shrimp, if you put shrimp in something too early, it will make the shrimp too tough unless you really cook it a long time. Because it's one of those things like calamari. If you flash fry, go lay down, go lay down, go lay down. If you flash fry calamari, it gets tender. But if you flash fry it and then you leave it down too long, or fried, should I say, at that point, because you're not flash frying, which is just for a few seconds, just till it gets a light golden color. If you overcook calamari, then it gets tough. And the only thing you can do with calamari once you did that is to cook it for a real long time in some kind of fluid. And I'm gonna add the juice and the clams. I'm gonna do this 4 times, so I'm gonna pause the video. I apologize, I never got to come back after I put in the 4th can of clams and showed you that I put the lid on. Okay, now it's been cooking for about 25 minutes, and one thing I didn't mention is you want to put it down on low heat, and you want to keep stirring it occasionally, because there's nothing that'll ruin a pot of gumbo or chowder. Sorry, I make gumbo too. There's nothing that'll ruin a pot of chowder faster than burning the cream and the milk on the bottom of the pan. And you can test a potato by taking a toothpick just to make sure they're done. So that was a pretty big potato that was in there. So it's actually done. So without further ado, I'll do the one thing that most chefs always do in a video. They get a little bite. I have to cool it off for a second here. Oh, that's good. Really good. Just make sure you keep stirring it. Burnt cream and burnt potatoes are 2 of the worst things that you can burn in a pan of chowder. This is really good. And that's all. So now you know how to make a New England style clam chowder, not the Manhattan, of course, which is a tomato base. Thank you.